Good to meet you. Okay, Rachel. Well, thank you for taking time out to get this interview conducted. I tell you what we're going to do here is I'm going to treat you as I have all the others, exactly the same questions. These questions are all designed to give you an opportunity to demonstrate what your core values and beliefs are and your vision for the Republican Party of Texas. There's only a couple of policy questions in here, but otherwise, they are all very straightforward. So we'll get
All
into
right.
it.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right. So, Rachel, again, thank you for being with us for this interview. Please identify the character qualities, core beliefs, and experience that makes you the right choice for vice chairman of the Republican Party of Texas.
All right. So I'll start with my experience. I started out as a precinct, well, actually, before I was a precinct chair, I was an election judge for many years. And then my precinct chairman finally talked me into becoming a precinct chair. My son got a little bit older, and so I had a little bit more freedom when he started school and that kind of thing. So I decided to go for it. And then COVID happened. And that woke me up like a lot of other people. And I knew that I couldn't just sit on the sidelines anymore. And so from there, I became much more active in my party and then also joined my local Republican Women's Club and eventually ended up actually running for office myself. So as a candidate. And then I'm sorry, can you repeat the other parts of the question?
Yes, the character qualities and core beliefs.
Okay, so first of all, I am a Christian, and so everything that I am doing is going to be coming from a biblical worldview. And when I say I'm a Christian, I don't mean I just go to church on Sundays. I actually study my Bible. I am involved in the children's ministry at my church, and I've also led a women's recovery group as well. So um, it's not, church isn't something that I go to, it is part of who I am, of being the church. So that's going to inform my decision making, but that's also going to inform my character because I believe that we've got to live our lives first based off of the Ten Commandments because that's very basic for us. And then from there, if we're not walking out our Christian values, then people can see through that and they know that we're not real and they're not going to trust what we have to say.
Hey, it froze up there just a little bit on you, Rachel, but I think, could you say just the last part again, please?
Yes, I said that if we're not actually walking out our Christian values in our character and demonstrating that, then people can see through it. And then they're not going to, we're not going to have influence in any of the spheres that we need to be walking in and leading in.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Where can the job description for the vice chair of the RPT be found? And please cite your understanding of those official duties.
Yes. So whenever I was considering running for this position, I did have to pull out my paper copy from last convention and go and find that in the rules section. And it's a very short paragraph. And so I talked to some SREC members and got their take on what they're looking for in a vice chair and what they believe the duties are. And so first and foremost, that will be to assist the chairman, whoever that might be. And then from there, I believe that it is the job of the vice chair to assist SRECs and local parties in the things that they need in order to be effective for the people that they represent. And so that will be my goal as vice chair.
Okay, thank you. Where can you find the best indicator of what the Texas Republican Party's base believes about key issues? And how do you believe the RPT can best demonstrate to its voter base that they have been heard, and how can you lead that effort?
Yes. Well, I believe that we can go to a convention and see what the grassroots are talking about, what they're interested in. Obviously, we have our legislative priorities that we all take part in and voting on at convention. And I believe that is a great starting point for us. And then I also think that as vice chair, your job is to go and make relationships with those SRECs and local county parties so that you're getting to know people and understanding what is truly important to them.
Okay. When we talk about the Republican Party's primary voters, that's a significant part of the voter base. So, how important do you believe the 2024 ballot propositions, the 13 that were on the ballot on March 5th, how important do you think those are in shaping the Republican Party of Texas um, priorities and the way it addresses what its base has said is important? How important is that to you? And what are some ideas that you have that the party could actually take what the voters told them and move forward with those things?
So the primary voters, those are the people who hopefully for the most part, they're paying attention. They're not just sit on the couch kind of people. They're involved in the process and they're watching and they're learning what's going on with their representatives and the issues. So I believe that's a great litmus test to see what the base has an appetite for as far as our priorities. And so going from there, I think it's important for the party to listen and receive what it is they have to say, but then we also have to make sure that our elected representatives understand that these are the things that their voters, the same people who voted for them in the primary, these are the issues that those same people care about or want to see passed. So it comes back to relationship.
Okay, thank you. Current party rules allow for the SREC to censure a Republican office holder who violates the party's core principles. Do you think we should continue with this rule? Why or why not?
I do because I think it's a useful and effective tool, but it should be used very carefully. I personally have had an experience with censuring in my own county where our county party did censure our county judge for the COVID mandates, such as closing our churches, because we know that that was violating our God-given rights. And so we had no choice but to stand up for ourselves on that. So I fully believe the same thing with the SREC, that as a party, we have to be able to uh, discipline and help people to understand that when we elect you, we expect you to live up to these standards. And if you do not, these will be the consequences.
Okay, thank you. What are some examples of actions you believe represent clear violations of the party's core principles, in addition to the one that you cited?
Right. So I was actually just going over the principles before we got on here because it's always good to refresh yourself. And one of the things that I would say for sure is if someone is not pro-life, I mean, there's no riding the fence on that one. You either are or you are not. The others I would say would be preserving individual Texas and American sovereignty, because I feel like that is the root of a lot of our problems that we have in our state and our country today, is that our government doesn't respect our sovereign rights as individuals and as states, especially on the federal level.
Okay, thank you. Should you be elected vice chair, what are some of the tangible metrics that you would expect Republicans to use in order to determine whether or not you've done a good job?
Yes, so I have some clear goals that I've set out for my tenure as vice chair, and those would include registering new voters and increasing voter turnout, because we know that people are, first off, they're leaving the Democrat Party, and then secondly, there are people who are already Republicans, but they're not voting. And so we've got to activate those people. So that's definitely a measurable metric that will be a measure of my success. And then some of the other things I would like to see is more engaged citizens. And by that, I mean informed voters, people who understand how and why they need to have relationships with their elected representatives. And that is all the way from city council, school board, all the way up as far as you can go. If you can have a relationship with them, you need to build that. So the other, and then from there, I think our party will align when we again have, this is the standard, meet it, or we will find someone who will, and we'll do that in a way that's respectful and loving, but those are just, that has to be the way that it is for our party. So.
Okay, thank you. If you're elected vice chair, what percentage of the party's annual budget would you like to see in donations of $100 or less? And what do you believe the RPT would need to do in order to earn the credibility with the grassroots that those low dollar donations would come in?
Yes, so fundraising has been a hot topic on the campaign trail, and I was just thinking about that earlier. You know, that when President Trump ran the first time, we saw that he got so many smaller dollar amount donations from people because they believed in what his message was and they agreed with it. And I feel like if we are depending on large dollar donations, it's kind of putting all of our eggs into one basket, and that's never a good plan. We need to have a diversified portfolio of fundraising methods, but I think the grassroots has to be the main one, because when you're invested in a process, if you've got money, you've got skin in the game, then you're much more likely to participate and stick with it. And so I think for credibility, what we need to do is align our party. Again, getting back to those principles and standards, and people knowing that when they say Republican, those principles and standards are what we're talking about. It's not just a talking point. It's what we actually believe and walk out.
Okay, thank you. There is a perception that party officials must always place value on opinions of high dollar donors over the identified priorities of Republican primary voters and those of the convention delegates who serve to represent the interest back home. Do you believe this is an accurate perception, Rachel? Why or why not?
I do believe that for the most part, it is an accurate perception, unfortunately, that a lot of times when you are a candidate, if someone is going to donate a large amount to your campaign, then they may expect that they will then receive a bigger audience with you. But the fact is, they're only one vote, just like every other person. No matter how much money you donated to my campaign, you're still only one vote. And so we have to respect each person in that manner, that they have a vote and that it does matter. And if they choose to give to your campaign, that's wonderful and that's great. They're invested, but you can't buy a candidate.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now we have a couple of policy questions here. Do you support legalizing casino or online sports betting in Texas? And
I do
why or
not.
why not?
No, I don't, because it has already been proven that it does increase crime and poverty in the areas that it comes to. And I'm also opposed to it because the way that it's being approached would pick favorites. It wouldn't even be a free market system. And so I'm against it, but also economically I'm against it, because I don't believe that it would be a fair shake for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Do you support legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana for any use in Texas? Why or why not?
No, I do not, because it is the marijuana that is on the market today is not the marijuana that was on the market even in the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s. I would say it has become completely just, it is metamorphosized into something dangerous. And I don't think that that is the right direction for our state to go.
Okay.
And
Thank
then,
you.
I mean, of course, also we know that if you try marijuana, then you're very much more likely to try other illicit drugs and just, down into the pit. It's no place to be.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Have you ever testified at a legislative hearing? And if you have, can you tell us approximately when that was and on what topics?
I have not actually ever gone and testified myself on a legislative topic. I have attended hearings, but I've never testified myself.
Okay. All right. Please describe specific ways that you have personally supported the work of the conservative grassroots movement in Texas. And that would include ways that you have participated with them and any other ways that you support the conservative movement in Texas.
So my experience so far has been getting people in my local area activated. Whenever I first started to get involved, our county party was kind of really just an afterthought. Um, we didn't really have a presence in our county, and now I will definitely say that we have become a force to be reckoned with, and we have been able to recruit people to run for office and really start to get everyday people involved in their local government. And that has really been my focus, is trying to help people understand why it is they need to know how their local government functions, but then also be involved and building those relationships like I talked about. So my involvement has very much been on that local level with my county party, with my Republican Women's Club. And some of the things that we've done there are having email blast groups for the legislative priorities, so that when something is coming up, people have subscribed and said, okay, I like this issue, so this is what I want to hear about. So when that one's coming, then we can inform them, okay, here are some action items, this is what you can do. In fact, even using some of the emails that your group does, to say, okay, we're passing along this information to you because I work for myself, and so I have a lot of flexibility and a lot of time to be able to disseminate through these things and then pass them along to others. And so I'm very happy to do that. Um, so I would say that has been my experience. And then getting to know my local SREC members and working with them, just having them to help us along in our local party has been a huge blessing to us in facing some of the challenges that we have personally experienced in our county. So,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Thank you. Very good. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about your personal management style.
Okay.
How do you go about persuading or influencing others to work with you? Can you kind of walk us through your mindset and some of the things that you do to influence others?
Sure. So, I always try and be respectful and kind, first off. And then I always want to try and give people the opportunity to do the right thing on their own, because I feel like you can learn a lot from a person, whether they take that opportunity or not, and the way that they approach things. And then I would also say that my leadership style is very not hands off, but I want, when I delegate something to you, that means I trust you to accomplish that task. I want you to ask me for help or resources if you need that. Absolutely. And I'm happy to do that. But I want you to be able to do what you think is the best plan of attack for that task. And so, whenever I'm asking someone to take something on, then I fully expect them to do that. But if they need help, then that's great. Let's find it. Let's get what you need and let's get this thing taken care of. So I'm
Okay.
definitely not a micromanager.
Okay. So would you say that you favor speaking directly with people to influence them as opposed to say for example, if you have a difference with someone,
Yes.
is it more your style to have a conversation with them, or do you address it with them the first time on social media and see how they react and then talk to them, or you know?
Yes. So I think we have a biblical roadmap for that where we need to address it in private first. And like I said, always give people the opportunity to do the right thing. If we have a disagreement, then I think we should be able to have a conversation. We should be able to talk through that. And if we don't come to the other side of that conversation, reaching some kind of agreement, and we still have a difference, then hopefully it's not on something that's a really, meaty issue. And if it is, then we might need to reconsider our relationship. But if it's something that is 1 cent or 2 cents, then okay, we're obviously everyone's different. We're not going to agree on everything, and that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, so Rachel, think a few moments about a conflict you've ever dealt with in your life, or what I like to call a fork in the road experience. And maybe it was one that was painful, or certainly one that had long-lasting impact based on the decision that you would make. What shaped your decision making and actions? And then how does that particular experience help you make decisions today that may be difficult?
Yeah, so I can share with you that 10 years ago, I made a decision to fully surrender my life to Christ. And it was difficult and it was painful because I knew I was going to have to leave some things and some people behind. But I knew that I couldn't continue on in the same direction because it was causing me pain, and it was going to be more painful to stay that way than it would be to change. And so from that point on, it was a period of very rapid growth and expansion for me. And there were parts of it that were very enjoyable, but there were also parts of it that were very painful. And that included some conflict resolution within myself, in the way that I thought about things and surrendering authority in my life. So I would say that that's been the biggest thing that I've ever had to battle is myself, to say, okay, this is the way we're going to do things now. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it.
Okay, thank you very much. So now, Rachel, I want you to reflect on the true state of our state and our nation. And when you consider the serious challenges that are in front of us, cite what you believe are the two most pressing issues that Texans will need to deal with, and cite what you believe how the Republican Party of Texas should best lead on those two issues, and what role do you think you could play?
Yes. So first, I would say that we are facing a reckoning in our state where we have to choose whether we will allow the elected class, the political class, to rule over us as serfs, or if we are actually going to stand up and assert those sovereign rights that we talked about at the beginning of the conversation. And we really have to I think as individuals and as a party, stop and count the cost and understand that it is going to be painful because things are going to have to change if we choose this course of direction. And that, again, individually and as a party, we are going to have to resolve to make a plan and stick with it. Come hell or high water, because we know those things will come, because power is not acquiesced, it has to be taken. So as a mom, I'm fighting for my child, for his children to come, because if we lose Texas, we know what happens to the rest of America. And I'm very concerned about the state that we find our state in. And so I feel that our elected representatives understanding that we, the people, are the ones who retain the sovereign rights, and that they are elected to go there and represent us and carry out the wishes of the people, period. So that would be number one. And then I think number two is going to be, once we correct course on that, is going to be states' rights. Our federal government is completely out of control. The spending is completely immoral. My child, his children are born debt slaves. It's disgusting, and it is not what our country was founded upon. I say kind of the way that I got here is that a friend gave me a book by Ron Paul called In the Fed. and that was the start of my becoming a conservative, because I started to realize that what I had been taught my entire life was based upon a lie, that, that the federal government has power over me as a person. And so I had to unlearn all of that, and now studying our Constitution and learning how our government is actually supposed to work. I understand that our states individually need to assert their rights. And I believe that Texas needs to lead the way in that and build a blueprint or a roadmap that other states can then follow. And I think that Texas has the boldness and the audacity to do that. But that means we have to have elected representatives who are willing to stand up and do that. And in order for them to do that, I think they need to have the confidence that we, the grassroots people, are going to stand beside them and lock arms with them, and that we are going to, again, have that plan and be resolute that we are all going to march forward and we are not looking back. And that is that.
Okay, thank you. We talked earlier about your own character qualities that you believe make you the right person for vice chair of the RPT. But tell us now what character qualities you look for and that you value most in your relationships.
Number one, yes, number one has got to be honesty, because even when it's something that I don't want to hear, like in my relationship with my husband, right? Even when it's something that I don't want to hear, I still need him to tell me the truth, even when it hurts, because if I don't know the truth, then I can't fix it. I can't do something about it, or I can't celebrate it, because sometimes the truth is something great. And we need to be able to celebrate that and encourage each other in it. So honesty is my number one characteristic that I value. From there, I would say being able to have grace for others and understand that we're not all the same. We have different experiences, different perspectives, and that if we can take the time to listen to each other, we can learn things, that we can find ways to collaborate together and solve problems. So just having that grace to be able to listen, that's one of the things I want to be known for, is that, yes, I like to talk, but I'm always happy to listen as well, because I know that I don't know everything. So.
Okay, thank you. What are your thoughts on the Republican Party of Texas extending opportunities for booth or sponsor space at the convention to groups whose stated mission violates the Republican Party of Texas platform?
Yes. So going back to our principles, the number one, the laws of nature and nature's God. If you don't line up with that, then I don't believe that we should promote or condone that behavior, period.
Okay,
It's just very black and white for me.
okay, thank you. While, while cultural Marxism has been on the rise in our nation for many decades, during the COVID shutdown, which you alluded to earlier, um, the covers were pulled back on what was happening in classrooms, and more people are able to see it. We see it in the streets and on university campuses today. And we know this has been going on for many generations, so it's not new. What do you believe the RPT should do better to protect children? And how do you believe you as a mother could help lead that effort?
Yes. So one of the things that we have to do is get our conservative candidates elected to school boards. And we've got to have parents attending school board meetings. I go to school board meetings in my local ISD, and I will tell you that the parents are there for the awards at the beginning and then they all leave. But then they wonder why things are going awry in their school when they are not participating. And I think just like in local government, a lot of times parents don't understand the process of what their school board does and how they pick and choose curriculums or how things are going to be taught in their school district. So better educating parents on the process, helping them to understand the stakes about what it is that's going to happen to their children. You can't send your kid to a place for 8 hours a day and then expect to undo all of that in the couple of hours you might have in the evening with your child before it's time for them to go to bed again. So I think, parental involvement and helping them to understand that, and then getting Republicans elected to school boards so that whenever the shack meeting happens, they're going, wait a minute, I don't want my kids learning that in school. That's my job as a parent.
Okay, thank you. In the Republican Party of Texas platform has an introductory section some people call the preamble.
Yes.
Um, would you describe that, please, and enumerate some of the values that are in that in your own words, and would you tell the audience how important you think that particular section of the platform is in today's world?
Yes. So I would say that the preamble is the most important part because everything we do as a party flows from there. So if you don't agree that we have a God, that we're created by Him on purpose for a purpose, then you're going to have a real problem with the rest of the platform, because if you don't agree with that basic premise, and actually even going as far as to say that our party is a party of Christians, in fact, not just a higher power, but we do actually believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that it's fundamental and you can't leave that part out. So, and even that goes back to what we just talked about previously about offering sponsors or vendors booths that for groups that don't line up with that basic notion of our party. It's a non-negotiable. So if you don't believe that there is a God and that Jesus is his son and that we're inhabited by the Holy Spirit when we accept that salvation, then I don't know that the rest of it really matters because our Constitution was made for moral people. A lot of people try to be moral without the Holy Spirit, I'll say, uh, and they're not very successful. So I think if you're missing that part, it's fundamental and it's just not going to happen. And you may be able to blend in for a while, but there's going to come a time where that fork in the road is going to happen, and you're going to realize that you don't truly line up with the Republican Party. So it's better to go ahead and recognize that at the beginning rather than go through all the heartache of it on the back end.
Okay, thank you. So now we've talked about this a little bit about your involvement and how you've tried to help promote the Republican priorities by disseminating good information. Can you be more specific about that, and can you highlight for us any of the legislative priorities specifically that you worked on more than others?
Sure. There's one that's very personal for me. I'm adopted. Um, my biological mom was 15 years old and she wasn't married whenever she had me. Um, I'm very thankful that she didn't have access or the means to have the choice of abortion, but I certainly think about what if she had, you know, I don't know that I'd be sitting here today. So the pro-life, abolish abortion issue is very personal to me. Um, some of the things that I have done is share my personal story with others so that they can understand that we're real people that deserve a chance just the same as everyone else. So something that I have done in order to help facilitate that, I would say, is agreeing to be, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what the term is, but Jonathan Mitchell is an attorney who
Mhm.
I agreed to be the person who would call for the subpoena and questioning of the man who was facilitating the offshore abortions for
Mhm.
Texas women. And so for me, I think that shows that I am willing to take personal risks and really be in this game for real, not just talking, but actually taking action and living out those values because, again, it's personal and it matters to me.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're now at the part of the interview where you get to close the deal. So you can take as much time, you've got plenty of time to do this. So this is your chance to raise any issue that I did not raise with you today, or to tell people, put a fine point on what your passions are, your what your pet peeves might be that you intend to fix within the party. And just let the delegates and alternates know exactly who Rachel Hisler is. Do you say your last name Hisler?
It's Heisler.
Heisler,
Yes,
Rachel
ma'am.
Heisler. Thank you for that. And let them know exactly who Rachel Heisler is,
Mhm.
and give them an opportunity to get to know you right here in the last few minutes.
Yes, thank you so much, Joanne, and I have enjoyed being with you today. I would say that for me, it's about being real. I'm a real grassroots activist who became more and more involved. And as I have lived out my Christianity, I believe in the Great Commission that we are out to go out and make disciples. I fear that if we do not step up and regain control in this state, that I will not be able to legally do what I am called to do by my God, and go and share the gospel with others, because it will become hate speech, as we've already very much seen, happening throughout the country, that people are being they're facing lawfare for living out their religious beliefs, which is in the First Amendment of the Constitution, because it's one of the most important God-given rights that we have, to worship our God as we see fit. So I would say that that is one of the number one drivers for me in this role, why I am taking such a large step. I know that, there are certainly people who have more experience than me in a statewide or higher legislative level than I have, but I don't let that stop me, because I know that I serve a big God who can make a way where there is no way, because I've already seen him do it several times in my life and in the lives of others. So as far as that, I believe that the duty is ours, and the results are his. I really do believe that. So for me, in this role of vice chair, what I'd like to see is actually having an informed electorate who knows who it is that they're going to the polls to cast their vote for, and that they're voting for people because they believe in the same things that they believe in, and not just because they recognize their name from a sign, or I've known them forever and they used to change my diapers, or, we've got to get past that as a party. We've got to get to quality candidates who will then be willing to step up and be measured and reach that standard that we've set as a party. We can no longer keep going with the excuses and we just ran out of time. And I really feel that after this last primary election, that we have some real momentum on the side of the grassroots. And I think it's time for us to continue to push forward in that and really lean into it, because if we let up any right now, then the opposition has our number. They know just how far we'll push and no further, and they will go right back to where we were. And honestly, I think it'll actually even get worse if we don't continue to push forward in this fight now and really just put it all out on the table and go for it. I really think that that's our only choice. We have no other choice. And for myself, I certainly cannot go back. In my experience in my local elected government, it's very difficult for an outsider to run for office, but it's not impossible. And you can't start and then stop and then start and then stop. You have got to put your hand to the plow and just keep moving forward. You've got to be able to get other people to invest and buy into the cause that you're fighting for, and help them to understand why they also need to be fighting for that, because it takes all of us together, right? There's no one big hero that's going to come and save all of this. Each one of us, we have to be the heroes in this story. And yes, that will cost us, but in the end, we have to realize that it is worth it, that our freedom, our liberty, our God-given rights, it is worth it. And it's worth it to preserve this experiment for our children moving forward. I want them to have hope, and I want them to be able to look back and say, they did it. They really did stand up. They really did, say that and do what they said they were going to do. They weren't just some people that yelled at their TV and bought their Trump shirts or hats. You know, it's got to be more than that. It's got to be that we all lock arms together and move forward together in one coalition. We've got to align. And I think that happens with our grassroots and being informed, like I said before, that informed voters are able to hold their elected representatives accountable. If we have those relationships, like I talked about earlier, in place, then you are going to be able to go to them and say, hey, that's great. I love what you did here, but maybe here we can work on that. We can improve it. But if you don't have a relationship, then it's very hard to get those elected representatives to listen to you. So that's what I would love to see as vice chair. And I'll be very happy to facilitate those relationships and help people to take risks, because I think that's the point where we are right now, that we have to take risks. We can't play it safe anymore.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Rachel Hisler, candidate for Republican Party of Texas Vice Chair. Thank you for being with us. Good job.
Thank you so much. It's been great being with you and great meeting you finally.
Thank you.